Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I have been busily working on one of my promised plugins. Since I'm over the Patreon level of $600, I'm putting out all of my greatest hits. And I've always had a popular compressor plugin called Logical, and it went up to Logical 3 until now. This has taken a little bit of extra time. I wasn't able to get it out the first weekend of the month, or the first Sunday of the month, and I'm sorry for that, but it wasn't done. I had the idea that I was going to work on it more and try to make it more amazing, and I think I have kind of succeeded in doing that. I was just listening to it on some test stuff. I just finished it up today, and yeah. What I've changed from the previous versions of Logicals is this. Ratio control now goes to 16:1, and I'll tell you some of the underlying stuff behind that. Reaction speed goes to 100 milliseconds, which is more a sort of rough estimate, but it's just expanding the range of different controls in such a way that they'll be more useful. And it sounds kind of like this. Here's old empty pictures. If I turn on the compressor, it sounds like this. It's kind of a sort of SSL Rocky style compressor. Here, I'll make this be quieter. Now, the thing about Logical is that it's very, very adaptable. You can get good sounds out of it in a bunch of different ways. This, as you can hear, is a little bit, I hear it being a little bumpy, so... Oh, that's makeup gain, what am I doing? Don't mind me. Here is the reaction speed. I'll just make it react a little smoother while I'm talking. Again, this is the compressed, and this is compressing really hard. Now, the first thing to hear about this is that it is a very smooth, fluid kind of compression. I'm really pushing for an analog style here. And the second thing is that ratio is one of the primary ways to relate to this plugin. Like 1:1 is normal. But if you bring it up to say around 2:1 or whatever, we can play with the reaction speed here. And you can hear that this is a sort of bus compressor type thing. And at less than 2:1, we're running one stage of the logical compression. However, if you put it to 2:1 or over, what we start to do is involve the second stage. And it's not so as you really notice. There's a complicated crossfading arrangement going on under the hood here. But you'll notice quickly when we start going to the round 4:1, because we're starting to really hear the heavier compression as the ratio kicks way up. You can hear this is completely slammed it, and that's because the threshold is so low. So one thing we can do is put the threshold back. As you can see, the threshold above what it wants isn't really doing anything at this ratio. But we can step on things a little bit with this, and we can play with the reaction speed. Like 4:1 is starting to get into the zone. 4:1 is starting to get into the zone of special effects compression. It's starting to do crazy things with it. However, there is more to be had from there. If I keep cranking up the ratio, start getting a little wacky. Or a lot wacky. You notice how it's getting louder? I'm going to have to pad the makeup gain. And the reason is, when we crank out Logical4's ratio all the way, it goes kind of insane. And this is a delightful thing. This is a good thing. It's great fun. But it's kind of nuts all the same. Like, we can have a slow reaction speed and then it's just suppressing things a great deal, but we can also exaggerate stuff by speeding up the reaction speed a lot. Until we get some very crazy results indeed. Now with this, it shouldn't be affecting anything with the threshold this way, but we've got it padded way down so that it's not blowing anything up. But check this out. If I turn the threshold way up, we continue to see a reaction. And that's because the reaction speed and the ratio are so insane that it's doing crazy stuff. So we'll leave that all cranked. Now listen to the difference between that and just dry. Listen to what's happening to the drums here. It's really fun. There's this whack to it. This is just the kind of madness you can get into playing with Logical in unreasonable ways. And of course, I have a dry wet because people wanted a dry wet so much all the time. And so you can sort of combine these things around a little bit. Lower the threshold when the ratio is this high, we start being able to really smash stuff up. In fact, let's go over to something else. There's a much lower level track called Something Anything. And we should be able to get some of these crazy sounds out of this guy too. Yeah, that's a little unusual there. Big difference here between dry and the intense compressor going on. Let's just exaggerate it beyond all reason. How about? This is a plugin. This is not a piece of analog gear freaking out when I twist the knobs too much. This is still a plugin. Here's a little dry. We bring in the plugin. Let's slow down the reaction speed. It's getting a little hectic. Now, one of the things to bear in mind here is that this super intense, exaggerated, pushed as far as I can go compressor is bringing out highs in a particular way. And this is too crazy. Let's back off. Or if I wanted, I could back off ratio. And now we have normalcy again. A little makeup gain going on, but in fact, treating it this way, using low ratios for this, we want to have the makeup gain basically zeroed out. This is still with the airwindows technique of if things are zeroed out, they're not doing anything. The calculation's not being done. So the way this works is very clean in every sense. If you're applying something like dry wet, you'll hear it. If you're not applying it, you won't hear anything. And we'll continue cranking the ratio up. Here's the deal. Compressors can be tricky to use because it's sometimes hard to hear what they're doing. This is a really strange extreme compressor, and it allows you to do many extreme wacky things. Here, let me do a slow reaction speed on this guy. And when you do the crazy things to it, it can sound kind of odd, but ideally you want it to be fairly hard to hear the more subtle things you might do. Let's take this threshold back closer to normal, and I'll rewind that bit. Now that's not being compressed, but if I sneak this in, it's being plainly stepped on, and so this is mild compression. And it's the same motion as the extreme version. You can adjust the motion with reaction speed. You can adjust the sort of flavor of it with ratio. Like that's a smoother motion. We'll speed it up a little bit. I better rewind it again. We'll make it kind of fast now. Just so that it's flattening out that snare. And this is the kind of stuff you could do with a good compressor. One where it's really showing you what it's doing. Now, part of the trick of this is the way that the stages of compression kick in on ratio, and it is also, let me pause it for a second, it's also holding back on applying all the processing unless it's required by the ratio. There's multiple stages of compression going on in here to get the really high ratio stuff, and this is probably not going to cause an issue. There is the possibility of there being some kind of slight popping noise if you switch from high ratio to something low and then back and forth again, but I wasn't able to actually make that happen. It's just a thought that because it's not doing all the processing for the other compressors, it's possible that they will get caught out somehow. Point being, it kind of wants to have the ratio stay in one place, but again, I wasn't really hearing it change with it. And again, the way this works, let me back that off again. When we start cranking up the ratio a lot, it's like pushing in all of the buttons on a compressor. It goes insane. And that's what you're hearing. Is the most insanely cranked out. Generally, anything you're doing, there's about 3 different ways to change it into something else. And again, we've got this very high ratio. It's not really quite a limiter though, but and a very fast reaction speed, or you can slow the reaction speed so that it's more of a swing going on, or sort of goose the thickness of it. This is happier with higher reaction speed. Now that's pretty nuts compared to dry sounds just like this. Then when I kick in Logical, Try that with your usual software compressors. It's kind of a special thing. And oh, we got to hear what it does on the crazy techno thing. I know some people hate this, but it's actually very useful in certain ways. It's a very challenging, it'll make stuff sound terrible, except apparently for this, which it will not make sound terrible because Logical is quite amazing. This is the super high ratio stuff. I can crank the reaction speed up all the way, it doesn't seem to mind, it doesn't seem to care. This is with all the push. We compress it even harder, doesn't seem to care. This is a ridiculous over-exaggeration of compression. And of course we can use the reaction speed to get some really pointy peaks out of this and just totally invert the envelopes of everything. The dynamics of all of the snares and things have gone completely mad. That's so slow that it's hardly coming across at all, but there's going to be a spike on the front here. One thing about ultra slow reaction speed is that it's going to cause everything to be smoother and freer of grain and grit. On the other hand, ultra fast reaction speed is all the grunge and grit that you could possibly ever want. And of course, you can always go back to low ratios for something that's like a really clean and clear bus compression. We can use an under 2 for only one stage of compression here. And let's see. Since it normally goes up to 0, let's see what we got. Slightly too high there, and definitely too high there. Okay, granted that we'll have the occasional spike. Curious what our compressor is doing with this particular track. Turn it on at a low ratio. You notice the kick drums are feeling different. They're kind of solid. They kind of swing forwards a little bit more that way. And then we can get up into the 3 or 4 to 1 range. And then bring the threshold up so it's just stepping on the front of the beat. And now we're padding it down a lot. And we have a really steep ratio going on. Oh. How long have I had that going on? Edit. Okay, we're going to have to edit this. That's kind of a lot of playing. Okay, so. Subtle edit. Don't mind me. So the trick with this track is that it has a very unnatural sort of low end going on. Probably wasn't that much time that I spent fooling around with that. And then if we start pushing the ratio a little higher, we'll start really hearing a result. can start doing some pretty funky things with all of this. Even with the threshold a lot higher than you'd think. You can plainly tell, even though this is 3 dB threshold above digital 0, it's still doing kind of a lot. And of course, if I push it even farther, we can get a real unusual thing going on here. You compare this with a much more boring plain track. Take this on. That's the kind of compression that can be useful, that you can do things useful with. And again, we can slow it down. Another thing about it is that if you have this kind of really high ratio, there's a certain high frequency zinginess going on. But then if we slow it down a little bit, we're also slowing down the reaction to attacks coming in, meaning that we end up with a little bit of high frequency spike on the front of the wave, and that can be useful too. Let's go back to something more normal. Since this is very loud and sort of overbearing, what we can do is back it off using ratio alone. That's a pretty intense banging kind of mix there. And then if I want, I can use that dry wet that people always like. And sneak back a little bit of the raw again. But yeah, people get tired of listening to Alien Kittens unless they really like that sort of bangy techno music, which I kind of do. That's why I made it. Logical4 is free. That's because I'm supported using Patreon. Granted, it's had a couple of bobbles recently. Some people that were pledging really large amounts decided that they were mad at me for some reason and went away, but none of the $1 or $2 patrons went away. And so I kind of went, okay, whatever. We are continuing as before. It's really going pretty well. It's going very well compared to most people on Patreon. And I continue to do stuff like have a version of Logical to put out and work on it until it's as amazing as this. And then I put it out for free because that's just how I roll. I want to be able to put plugins into the hands of people who can use them and who will get good usefulness out of them. And Logical4, I think, is the best compressor I've made yet. Just the way it brings together all the strange stuff I do. Like it's using technology from PowerSag, it's using technology from Buttercomp. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. And it took me a little extra time to work on. I didn't want to just put out a rehash of Logical 3. There were some things I've learned since I put out Logical 3 that I kind of needed to incorporate. And I think I have done so. And, well, there's nothing much more to say about it. Here's Logical4. It's for free because I like you, and I hope you like it. Thanks. And please support my Patreon if you like to see me continuing to do things like this. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff to revisit, and once I've worked on it again, generally I can make it better. Thanks.